Yeah, I mean, it's just such a like thin reed implies that there's a reed there, any basis for what they're doing. And I am reminded that, as you point out, like where sort of where's the right, but maybe just sitting on the sidelines is a good place. Like just saying that they're not in favor of this because it is just really unjustifiable, in reality, what Trump is doing. And in some ways it just reeks of desperation.
Mm.
Trump just comes off this bad break with Elon Musk. There's allegations by Musk about the Jeffrey Epstein files. It's ugly. There's threats going back and forth about SpaceX and contracts and more. And so, Trump needed a good distraction, change the conversation. And then you have the just repugnant Stephen Miller, who, apparently had some sort of rally the loyalists meeting in DC to say, like, you're not getting enough arrests. You're not doing enough, even though they've been harassing people and showing up at courthouses and arresting people who are coming in for their citizenship, test or more. It's outrageous. And the other person who seems pretty silent in this circumstance is good old Leonard Leo, who was also in the
Mm.
thick of a battle with Trump this past week. But I'm reminded, or at least I remember, that there was a very, famous leader in England who, Leonard Leo, has, presumably adored, Sir Thomas More. There's all these, tributes to Thomas More as a, Catholic and martyr, in his own way. And there's a famous scene in Robert Bolt's A Man for All Seasons about Sir Thomas More, who's been venerated by Leo and others. And in that exchange in this fictional book, but presumably has its own sort of lessons. William Roper says to Thomas More, "So now you would give the devil the benefit of the law?" And Sir Thomas More says, "Yes. What would you do? Cut a great road through the law to get after the devil?" And Roper says, "Yes, I'd cut down every law in England to do that." And More says, "Oh, but when the last law was down and the devil turned round on you, where would you hide, Roper? The laws all being flat. This country is planted thick with laws from coast to coast, man's laws, not God's. And if you cut them down and you are just the man to do it, do you really think you could stand upright in the winds that would then blow? Yeah, I'd give the devil the benefit of the law for my own safety's sake." I think that goes right to the point that both of you were making.
That's
one of
good. I
my
So
like
thank
that.
you for indulging me in a dramatic
One
reading.
of my favorite scenes.
I like the dramatic reading. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
my aside on that is, when I got to college, I love poetry, so I signed up for poetry interpretation. They didn't have a tryout, so I go to my first poetry interpretation competition, and I read my poem, and the coach is there, and I come out and I go, "How did I do?" And he said, "Well, you debated the hell out of that poem." He said, "I've got a place in the debate team for you, but you got to get off the poetry interpretation."
That was, but you know what? That was just that was a debate, so it worked beautifully. It worked beautifully. In
Yes.
fact, I think
Yes.
we might have to add a new segment where we act out our favorite scenes from classic movies.
Yes.
Speaking of
You-
classic movies, I think I heard they're making a new movie with Stephen Miller about all this. It's called Mad Max Beyond Santa Monica. I think it's going to be really good. I think, look out for it. Yeah.
Okay.
Rough and
on that
tumble
note-
Santa Monica.
Yes. Well,
Our timer
we
has rung.
Oh, there you go. Well, this is great because you began to give us a nice transition to the next segment. But I will end that segment with this. There is, in terms of storytelling, there emerged some really beautiful footage, including a clip of Latino workers in a cafe tending to local sheriff's deputies who had gotten hit by a blast of tear gas, and they're pouring milk and fanning them and helping get them back together to safety. And I think at the end of the day, history tells us that in these moments where I think it was in Poland, in different places where dictators have been taken down, the people are talking to those people behind the riot gear, and they're reminding them, we're your daughters, we're your sons, we're your brothers, we're your neighbors, and tapping into a humanity that in the moment when it matters, we've seen it in history that they have taken a knee. They have refused to point their weapons. And I hold out hope that we will continue, those brave people in the streets will continue to evoke, draw the eyes of the nation and evoke some sense of decency and honor within those who Stephen Miller has set upon Los Angeles.